Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, I'm back, and it is December 30th, and it is 10:32 p.m. Eastern Time. So the Q has not posted today, so we don't have any Q posts to go over, but we are going to jump right into the news. I do have lots of interesting things tonight. And first of all, I want to thank 3 people that donated via coffee. Adam, Krista Ewing, and Anon. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it very, very much. I really do. So we're going to get right into the news. I do want to let you guys know that tomorrow, being New Year's Eve, I will not be posting because I have an event to attend tomorrow evening. And no, I'm not partying. For those that might be wondering, no, that's just not my thing. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to post tomorrow, but I will be posting New Year's Day because I'll be home and there's nothing that I have on, so I might as well just be posting. So yeah, that's what I will do. So just letting you know in advance. Now let's get into the news. Hope you all are doing well. You look well. You're a handsome bunch. So anyway, let's get into it. Now, this is interesting. It's by IET17, and he says, oh shite, did you guys see this? Well, let's take a look at this. Whoops. It says, who's Tim Alefantis? Well, it's James' cousin. He's the man manufacturing the next generation of flu vaccines. That's right. Would you trust that family with anything? Now, you all know who James is of Comet PP. I don't want to say it because these things are picked up in the algorithms and the video will get shut down. So it is unfortunate, but due to censorship, that's what we have to do these days. So yeah, and so this guy is James' cousin, and he is manufacturing the next generation of flu scenes. And would you trust that family with anything? I wouldn't. So also involved with the Ebola virus, ID of essential filovirin associated host factors by serial I'm not sure how to pronounce that, protemic analysis and RNA. So yeah, let's take a look at this. This is him, James' brother, Tim, and this is him, director, pre to early development project leader, R&D global projects, flu next at Sanofi Pasteur, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And yeah, he is experienced director of project leadership, global project head with a demonstrated history of working in the vaccine biologics industry in both small biotech and large global corporation, skilled in molecular biology, biotechnology, cell culture, product development, as well as team leadership to drive complex and early stage projects with a cross-functional global team. Strong research professional with a PhD in microbiology and immunology and MBA. So, you know, more and more we keep finding out how incestuous this whole thing is, how everyone is interrelated and interconnected. It's really quite amazing. And this is also him. And here he's got some, well, these two look kind of unhappy. This guy looks happy, but with, is that Pluto or Goofy? I don't know. I can never tell the Disney characters apart. And yeah, so I just thought that would be interesting, you know, for whoever's interested. So, yeah, and this is his brother with Tony Podesta. Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me at all. And let's go back now and look at what else we can get into. Now, if this is not the craziest thing you've ever heard of, I don't know what would be. New York to allow accused criminals to inspect their own crime scenes. What? Obtain swift access to witness names. Gee, what could go wrong? Now, this is from December 27th, so it's a couple days old, but very good information here, and it's from Dan Bongino, who I trust. The state of New York will allow accused criminals to inspect their own crime scenes and swiftly obtain access to witness names, Breitbart is reporting. The new law, which will go into effect in January, is part of the New York's bail reform measures and will allow nonviolent alleged criminals to be released back into the public while they wait for their trials. Yeah. As Breitbart points out, the nonviolent offenders include those accused of second-degree manslaughter. Gee, that's not violent? Okay. Aggravated vehicular assault, promoting an obscene sexual performance by a child, possessing an obscene sexual performance by a child, criminally negligent homicide, and aggravated vehicular homicide. So these are all the things that, non-violent offenders, right, they're just released back into the public while they wait their trials. Gee, I can't think of anything that could possibly go wrong with that. Can you? No. So the new law, championed by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, well, that just explains everything, doesn't it? Of course it does. We'll see cash bail eliminated for 90% of criminal cases, enabling defendants to await trial at home, where I'm sure they're just going to stay put and not do anything else wrong while they're awaiting trial. Right. This move has many New York judges upset. Can't imagine why. And if you go to court, you'll hear that the judges are very anguished about this, said Special Narcotics Prosecutor Bridget Brennan. They are very concerned that the defendants not only will not return to court, but that the defendants pose a public safety risk. Well, of course they do. They've just been charged with something. Why wouldn't they do it again if they're free? Of course it's a public safety risk, but since when do these guys care about anyone's safety? Right. So Lieutenant Stephen Stockdale, a Warren County Sheriff's Office, told CBS 6 that he will have a difficult time explaining to victims why they must allow criminals back into their homes. It really boggles the mind that this is a reality for us. Talk about re-victimization, Stockdale said. The law will also swiftly give accused criminals a list of witness names, with prosecutors being formed to hand them over within 15 days of the defendant's arraignment. Breitbart points out that this policy will not allow for witnesses to be protected throughout the trial, which, of course, as you know, will cut down on witnesses. Because I know for myself, if I was a witness in a trial and they said, no, we can't protect you, and I knew that what I was witnessing or what I was giving witness to could possibly be, an excuse to hurt me or intimidate me or whatever. I don't know if I would testify. I'm just saying, it depends. The law will, okay, let me see here. So Breitbart points out that this policy will not allow for witnesses to be protected throughout the trial, which is a massive problem, if you ask me. In June, the Manhattan Institute's Seth Barron and Ralph Manguel wrote that such a provision will make it impossible for prosecutors to ensure witnesses are protected throughout the criminal trial process. Prosecutors will no longer be able to assure witnesses that their identity will be protected, even in the case of a grand jury testimony, which the new law will now require to be disclosed. While there's a provision to ask a judge for a protective order to shield a name that would come after cops and prosecutors talk to witnesses to make an arrest and build a case, emphasis added. Manhattan DA Cy Vance put it this way: having to hand defendants a roster of who has spoken out against them just 15 days after their first appearance, absent a protective order, is a seismic change that undoubtedly will dissuade witnesses who live in all neighborhoods from reporting crime. Well, yeah. I know for myself, I had to be a witness in a guns prohibition trial here in Canada when I was much, much younger, and they did not when they broke for break or whatever, usually they keep the witnesses and so forth separate from the defendant. But in this case, it was a small courthouse and they didn't have those arrangements. So I was assaulted by this person that I was testifying against while I was in court. So yeah, if I knew that I was going to be testifying, but my name was going to be told to this person while they're out, no, I don't think I would be real quick to testify. It depends on what the case was. But if a child was involved or anything like that, certainly I would. But yeah. Anyway, let's go back now because there's more. You know, there's always more. Now, this is from In the Matrix, and it's very good. Now, they're on Twitter, but I've spelled their name improperly here. It's In the Matrix, a matrix being spelled MATRIXXX. They are a patriot. They are a good researcher, so good person to follow on Twitter if you are indeed on Twitter. But I found this from their account on Twitter, and I copied it because I thought you guys might be interested in this, and they are obviously wanting to get this information out there. They've done a good job on this, and so I think that we should take a look at it. All right, now what this person has done is taken the drop from Q and written in all the answers, and it's very, very well done. So I think that it would help us all. All right, so it says one of 22 ongoing investigations at the DOJ, DNC breach / dossier. The first one, so anything in black is their notes. Anything in red is Q notes. So when he said one of 22, Q said, this person said, it's one of 22 ongoing investigations at the DOJ. The first one is the investigation of the Democratic National Committee breach / dossier. The DNC was breached by Seth, staffer at Democratic National Committee, who sent the data to WikiLeaks. Obama. Hang on here. So he breached it. He's the one that got this data, sent it to WikiLeaks. Then Obama, the national intelligence, the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, and the CIA, clowns in America, John O'Brien, found out about Seth, and 12 people, unnamed, were involved. Google funded CrowdStrike with $100 million. Google is, of course, CIA. And Brennan Clapper used CrowdStrike through Google to find the leaker. Democratic National, I think they mean convention, finds out that Seth is the leaker. As an example is made of Seth, and he is murdered by 2 MS-13 gang members, which themselves are killed. Debbie Wasserman Schultz shuts down the investigation into Seth, and the Democratic National Convention finds out Seth Rich is the leaker. An example is made of Seth, and he is murdered. Okay, this is the same. This is part 2, but it starts out the same. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz shuts down the investigation. The FBI and DOJ assist in covering up the investigation, of course. Could be Wiener Laptop, or the insurance could be Wiener Laptop, or reference to Peter Strzok text and meeting with Andy McCabe. And of course, this little triangle is the Rothschilds, the Saudis, and Soros. I remember when Q said this, that the Bush family had already fallen, and there were 3 sides to the triangle. The Saudis were the bottom. They had been taken out, and each side is, one side is Rothschild and the other is Soros. So Hussein, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Loretta Lynch, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok all conspired to create the dossier with support from Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff. Classified X refers to class of senators. And up here, he said, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. The text is from August 2016, and Andy may refer to Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. And class, Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution requires the Senate to be divided into 3 classes for purposes of elections. Senators are elected to 6-year terms, and every 2 years, the members of one class, approximately 1/3 of the senators, face election or re-election. Terms for senator in Class 1 expire in 2019, Class 2 in 2021, and Class 3 in 2023. So Class X refers to, I'm not sure here. It says Class X refers to class of senators, but here it's saying Class 1, Class 2, Class 3. British intelligence used to get Russian dirt for dossier. We know that. Hillary's campaign paid for dossier, and the DNC paid for the dossier, and there were classified persons, 1 to 4, also paid for dossier through Fusion GPS, who pays Christopher Steele for the dossier. All right, Part 3. Fusion GPS pays Christopher Steele for the dossier. John Podesta, it says John Podesta, Holder Relay. Russia gives the dirt to Special Agent Steele and relays the dirt to Eric Holder. And classified 1 to 9, 9 unnamed people involved. U.S. Senator No Name. Q likes to say, we don't like to say his name, Senator John McCain. Unnamed Senator number 1. Unnamed Senator number 2. James Comey, Loretta Lynch. Obama used dossier to get FISA warrant to spy on Trump campaign. Obama gets daily briefings. Senator John McCain shops the dossier around to all the fake news sites. And BuzzFeed is the first to publish the dirty dossier. This starts the public Russian narrative. And this sets the stage to prevent Trump's election or removal in the case he wins. The warrant allows the U.S. intel community to spy on candidate Trump, Representative Congress, Representative Senate, and all Trump-friendly news. So there you go. I think that is really well encapsulated. Q is the one that gave this post, but In the Matrix has expanded it out and put it in a much more readable form. And I think that it's pretty basic and lays everything out very, very clearly. All right, we're going to go on now, and we're going to go here, and we're going to take a look at this. We're going to touch on different topics here, but they're all sort of related in terms of they're all things that we've been following, or they're Q related. Now, this is from 3 Days, 3 Nights. What are the odds that Epstein's 66th Street building would be next to one of the largest blood banks in the world? Say what? It is. In fact, it shares an underground entrance. It also just happens to have a daycare in the lobby. Former Israeli PM Ehud used to visit this location frequently. I wonder why. Why would he visit that location frequently? Epstein's apartment inside the mysterious Manhattan apartment building on East 66th Street, where underage models, lawyers, and key players in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking circle all live, ex-Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak is a frequent visitor. And here we see, well, that doesn't make it any bigger, does it? Here we see Epstein's building is right here, 301 East 66th Street, New York. And Epstein building shares this trafficking-friendly underground garage with the New York Blood Bank. Right. Are you alarmed yet? Because I am. Opposite side of building has a daycare and preschool in the lobby and is next door to the New York Blood Bank. We, the people, know. Yes, we do. And I don't think we're as naive as when we started this whole process. I know I'm not, and I wasn't naive to begin with because I had seen a lot, experienced a lot. So I wasn't naive before, but I'm much less naive now. Like things like this would never have occurred to me before. Now I look at them and go, oh, that's not good. And we can thank Q for that and all the stuff that's coming out, all the arrests being made of traffickers and so forth. We're realizing that this is much, much bigger than any of us had anticipated. So let's, I just want to make sure that there's nothing. And yes, he got this property through Les Wexner, founder of Victoria's Secret and The Limited. By the way, where is Les these days? He's probably keeping a low profile, wouldn't you? It says if anything was fishy about him, it was that he got money loaned to him by Soros. That was a question I had. Go back to Corey's Digs. That's a great website, by the way, Corey's Digs. She has it all archived. Just put in the address or his name. Any research done will pull up on him. Jared's more about pushing the peace plan, Israel. So, yeah, I don't know here, but yeah. This person is a great person to follow on Twitter as well. 3 days, 3 nights. If you are on Twitter, if you're not, why not? There's a whole lot of really good information out there on Twitter. I'm on Twitter under Mishel D Bites, Mishel D Bites, and you can find me there. And if you if you ask me to follow you, I will follow you back. All right. Okay, now let's go back because there's more. Always, always more. Now we're going to look at this. And it's going to be one of those things that make you go, Yeah. Let's look. All right. Biden zeroes in on young girl at town hall. After it's over, come up and talk to me. Promise? Adds, anybody under 15, you get something special today. I don't think I want anything special from Joe Biden. I'm just saying. And I would not take my kids or let one of my children, not that I have any, I do not have children, and hence I don't have any grandchildren. But anyway, if I did, there's no way that I would let them go up and talk to Joe Biden because he would be smelling his or her hair and doing what, goodness knows what else. Anyway, during a town hall meeting in Peterborough, New Hampshire, Democrat presidential frontrunner Joe Biden thanked his small audience for coming to his town hall. Biden specifically singled out a young girl in the audience, leaning in and telling her, after it's over, come up and talk to me for a minute, okay? Adding, promise? Biden didn't just stop with offering special attention for one young girl in the audience. He extended the invitation to his favorite age group, telling his audience, anyone under 15, you get something special today. Want to know what that is. So, yeah, how would you feel if you had a young daughter there, 15, and, or how old was she? Just says a young girl. But how would you feel if Joe Biden went up to your young girl and said, after it's all over, come up and see me for a minute, okay? Like, that would creep me out as a parent. Just saying. So, Joe Biden has a history of inappropriate behavior with young girls he hardly knows. The video below does a pretty good job of accurately revealing just a few of Biden's more cringeworthy moments. with family members of U.S. senators while swearing them in while he was the acting vice president of the United States. I think we've all seen that. It's been going around forever. I know I've played it on this show. But anyway, how many elected Democrats stood next to Joe Biden and smiled for the cameras while he groped their daughters and granddaughters? A lot. They weren't even aware of it. But I bet their kids were. The one little girl that he was putting his hand near her breast, she was like trying to get away from him. She knew, look, this isn't appropriate. You're touching me somewhere I don't want to be touched. She knew, but I don't think the parents knew, but I thought it was hilarious when Jeff Sessions had probably a grandchild with him and went like this to Joe Biden, like, don't touch her. I think it was a little girl, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I thought that was very funny, actually. He knows what Joe Biden is. In another New Hampshire stop today, Joe Biden was called out for his predatory behavior with young girls by a man at his Milford, New Hampshire town hall. The video posted by Fox News 2020 campaign reporter Ali Rafa shows a man at the back of the gym at former Vice President Joe Biden's tiny rally telling him, "We don't need another old white man running for president. It's time to have a minority." Joe interrupted, but the protester shouted over him, "You don't touch kids ever again. Don't touch kids, you pervert." The audience can be heard laughing. Look it up. Joe Biden, creepy Uncle Joe Biden, he told the small crowd of Biden's, creepy Uncle Joe Biden, he told the small crowd of Biden supporters. Yes, only seconds after the male protester was escorted out of the gym, a female protester stood up and shouted, "The truth is going to come out, buddy." "All right," Biden responded as she yelled over him, "Quid pro Joe, quid pro Joe." Watch 3 consecutive interruptions at Biden's Milford, New Hampshire event. Shortly after taking the mic, a man in the back of the room calls the former vice president creepy and a pervert. Then a woman in the crowd shouts "Quid pro Joe" at Biden. We're not going to take time to play that. You've probably already seen it. But the other thing is, it's kind of, the one, at least the recording I heard, was very hard to hear. So here's a close-up of Biden responding to the protester at Biden event in New Hampshire. "Don't touch kids, you pervert. And the truth is going to come out, buddy." Yeah, it sure is. Sure is. And it's funny because his reaction was to laugh. If somebody called me a pervert, I don't think my reaction would be to laugh. I would be enraged. Why? Because it's not true. But if I knew I was guilty, I think a little smile might come across my mouth like, you caught me. Just saying. Okay, let's go back. Okay, here is another gobsmacking piece of news just for you people. Only the best for you. Okay, here we go. Hang on. Have to stay hydrated so I don't cough because that's annoying for everyone. All right. In July 2019, 100% Fed Up reported about Dr. Robert Epstein, the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today, testified in a Senate Judiciary Committee about how liberal tech giants like Google and Facebook have manipulated and will likely continue to manipulate votes for Democrats. He also warned that in 2020, the invisible manipulation by companies like Google will be like nothing we've ever seen. Well, I believe that. I'm sure you do too. Senator Ted Cruz started his questioning of Dr. Epstein by asking about his political preference. When asked if he was a conservative, Dr. Epstein laughed and said that would be an understatement. In his testimony, Epstein admitted he openly supported Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. Senator Cruz read from Dr. Epstein's testimony. Google's manipulation of votes gave at least 2.6 million additional votes to Hillary Clinton in the year 2016. Cruz asked, "Is that correct?" Epstein answered, "That's correct." Cruz confirmed that Dr. Epstein was a Hillary Clinton supporter. "I was a very strong public supporter of Hillary Clinton, yes." Cruz continued, "So you're not dismayed that people voted for her, but your testimony is that Google is through bias and search results, manipulating voters in a way they're not aware of. Epstein's answer was shocking. On a massive scale, he said. Epstein continued, and what I'm saying is that I believe in democracy and I believe in a free and fair election more than I have any kind of allegiance to a candidate or a party. And by the way, let me just add here that this is no relation to Jeffrey Epstein. This is totally different person, no relation. Senator Cruz then dropped a massive bombshell. Reading from the Liberal doctor's testimony, Ted Cruz asked, "You said in subsequent elections, Google and Facebook and Twitter and big text manipulation could manipulate as many as 15 million votes in a subsequent election. In 2020, if all these were supporting the same candidate, there are 15 million votes on the line that could be shifted without people's knowledge and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to trace," Dr. Epstein told Cruz. Near the end of the testimony, Dr. Epstein clarified that 2.6 million votes Google moved to Hillary was a rock-bottom number, saying that the actual number of votes moved in the direction of Hillary Clinton was closer to a range of 2.6 to 10.4 million votes. And yet, she still lost. And all right, let's come down here now. Now we're getting to the crux of this article. It's about this man's wife. Now, the wife of Dr. Robert Epstein has died in a car crash in California. Nothing suspect there. Oh, the cats are up to it again. My beautiful, and hang on here, Daily Mail reports the wife of a Google whistleblower who exposed meddling in the 2016 election died Friday night, just days after she was seriously injured in a car crash. Psychology professor Robert Epstein, 66, shared in a heartbreaking tweet announcing that his wife, Misty Dawn Vaughn, died after her vehicle spun out of control along a slippery road in California and into the path of a tractor trailer. "My beautiful wife, Misty, a published poet, succumbed last night to injuries sustained in a car accident," her grieving husband wrote. "I was supposed to die in your arms someday, but a slippery road has ruined everything. You are not just my love, you are my greatest adventure." Misty, 29, reportedly lost control over her Ford Ranger just after 8 a.m. Monday morning. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, she was driving along rain-slick Interstate 15 in Escondido when the accident occurred. When her truck spun out of control, it crossed into the path of an oncoming big rig that was hauling 2 dump trailers. California Highway Patrol spokesman Officer Mark LaTulip told the news outlet that the 50-year-old driver of the tractor trailer was unable to avoid hitting the woman's truck and struck the passenger side of the pickup. Moments later, a 19-year-old woman who was driving a Toyota 4Runner was also unable to avoid the accident in front of her and struck the Ranger. The victim was treated at the scene for her injuries before being rushed to Palomar Medical Center. Both the big rig driver and the 19-year-old woman were uninjured. But now, this doesn't get into it, but I saw another one, and if I didn't know that this got into the meaty part of this, I would have found a different article that addresses this, because by all intents and purposes, her vehicle just lost control. And now it's saying it was on a slippery road, but I think that they're intimating that it might not have been an accident, or as much of an accident as it appeared to be, because her vehicle just was out of her control completely. Now, it may have been sliding on the ice, I don't know, but I do think it's worth noting, because who knows? He obviously wasn't very popular with the Democrats, is what I'm getting at, and her accident was in California. Now, do I know that for a fact? Of course I don't. I don't think anybody does, but, it's in my nature to be a little skeptical about these things now. Excuse me, I'm hearing a cat ripping something. Yes, it's time for the Acme Cat be gone. It works wonders. Oh yes, I'd have to point it at them. They run. I know. I don't like doing that, but I don't want them to fear me. You know, as soon as I pick it up, they're like, okay. I digress. Now, let's go back and see what else we can get into, because there's lots. This is good news. We don't often get that, so I had to grab it while I could. Trump voted most admired man in U.S., and that's big trouble for Democrats in 2020. Oh, it sure is. It sure is. And I'm amazed at this, that it says this is the kind of news Democrats dread, and they should. A Gallup poll released Monday found President Donald Trump tied with former President Barack Obama as the man most admired by Americans in 2019, with each man being named by 18% of those surveyed. The news marked Trump's first time in the number one spot, albeit in a tie with his predecessor in the White House, and considering it came at the end of a year that saw the release of special counsel Robert Mueller's report, relentless attacks in the mainstream media and popular culture, and impeachment hearings by the Democrat-run House of Representatives, it's hard to see the results as anything other than good news for the White House. But there's even worse news for Democrats. Only one of the country's most admired men in 2019 is going to be on the presidential ballot come November 2020. And that would be Trump, not Hussein. Yeah, just gets better, doesn't it? Just gets better and better. All right, now let's go back. Because we can. And we will. And we shall. Okay. Now. Oh, you just got to shake your head at Joe Biden. Yeah, just shake your head. All right. This would be a good place for a collective eye roll, but you don't know what's coming up, and I do. So we'll wait to read the headline, and then we can do the collective eye roll. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Joe Biden. Millions are crossing Venezuelan border into Bolivia. There's only one problem with that. Bolivia is not on the Venezuelan border. No. While Trump administration has thumb in their ear. That's what Joe Biden is saying. Millions are crossing the Venezuelan border into Bolivia, while Trump administration has their thumb in their ear. Okay. Well, let's come down here to the map. You know, right here. Yeah, this right here. This is Venezuela right up here in the top, you know, the little skinny part of Central America, and it widens out into South America. It's right at the top there, right after Colombia. Venezuela is right here, and Bolivia way down here. Yeah, Bolivia is bordered by Brazil, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Not Venezuela. No, not even close. That must be some feat. They're crossing over the border of Venezuela right into Bolivia. How are they doing that? There must be like getting on little helicopters, I guess, and flying over to Bolivia. I don't know. He didn't explain. He just said they're crossing over the border into Bolivia. Must be little helicopters or something. I don't know. So, yeah. How do you like that? We won't get into the nitty-gritty of all this. We know he's not quite all there. Don't you think you'd check those things out before you start talking about them? Well, one would think. One would hope. But apparently not in Joe Biden's case. Okay, let's go back now, because there's more. There's always more. Okay, we've got 2 more things to cover. You can't stop me from covering them either. All right, let's look at this. I don't like it. You won't either. Criticizing government through online speech will soon be a criminal offense under dangerous new UN speech police rules backed by Russia, Communist China. Right. Now, this is from today, so it's hot news, hot and fresh, just like the Krispy Kreme donut sign. Yeah, I used to love that sign. I'd see that hot and fresh sign, and there's something about my car, it would just like start pulling. Yeah, I'm so glad that there's no Krispy Kreme anywhere around me, because, yeah, it's my weakness. I love those hot and fresh donuts. Okay, natural news. If ever there was a reason why the United States should seriously consider ending its relationship with and support of the United Nations, a new measure the world body just adopted provides a great reason. The UN General Assembly last week approved a Russia-led initiative that seeks to create a new global convention on cybercrime that was also backed by communist China. And while fighting cybercrime seems all well and good, Western groups concerned with the preservation of civil rights believe that what really motivated the two powers to push for the initiative was a desire to curb freedom of speech and expression online. As Breitbart News reports, the newly approved measure would establish a committee of international experts in the coming year. The panel will work to set up a comprehensive international convention on countering the use of information and communication technologies for criminal purposes, the resolution said. The United States, European powers, and rights groups fear that the language is code for legitimizing crackdown on expression, with numerous countries defining criticism of the government as criminal. Well, if criticizing the government is criminal, we'd all be in jail. Really. The United States, European powers, and rights group fear that the language is code for legitimizing crackdown on expression, with numerous countries defining criticism of the government as criminal. Yeah. So, at present, Chinese communist leaders already restrict online searches and activities so that nothing critical of their activities can be found by citizens. In addition, Chinese authorities block access to news media that are critical of the regime, and in fact, other nations have become somewhat authoritarian in their handling of online access, even the world's biggest democracy, India. New Delhi cut off internet access in Kashmir earlier this year after the government stripped away the autonomy of the Muslim-majority region. Iran, too, recently took most of the country offline as the government in Tehran dealt with rapidly spreading unrest that, according to reports, eventually turned violent. It is precisely our fear that a new convention would allow the codification at an international and global level of these types of controls that's driving our opposition and our concerns about this resolution, one U.S. official said, as reported by Breitbart. Cybercrime is just an excuse to formalize the destruction of freedom. And I do tend to agree with that. I think it's time for my Acme cat be gone. You too can own the Acme cat be gone. You can. It comes right out of your tap. Well, you know, Sammy is very, very sensitive to this. Xander, you could sit there and spray till the whole bottle was empty and he'd look at you, because this cat loves water. I'm in there taking a shower and the cat is right in there with me. It is so bizarre, really. Anyway, I digress. So, as such, the official continued, any new UN treaty that lays out control over access to the internet would be inimical to the United States' interest, because that doesn't tally with the fundamental freedoms we see as necessary across the globe. Even the generally liberal Human Rights Watch organization was critical of the new measure, noting that the list of UN sponsors represented a rogues gallery of some of the Earth's most repressive governments. That's generally a sign. I wonder if Canada was in there. I'm just saying. That's generally a sign that rights and freedoms online are about to come under assault, not that countries don't already limit access to the internet when they want to. It's just that doing so under the guise of a global treaty is so much easier to do politically. If the plan is to develop a convention that gives countries legal cover for internet blackouts and censorship while creating, I lost my place. If the plan is to develop a convention that gives country legal cover for internet blackouts and censorship while creating the potential for criminalizing free speech, then it's a bad idea, said Human Rights Watch Louis Charbonnel. And instead, the U.S. is arguing that the United Nations should instead expand on its only existing cyber Crime Accord, the 2001 Budapest Convention, an agreement that details international cooperation to limit copyright violations, child porn, and fraud. But Moscow opposes the Budapest Convention, claiming that it hands investigators access to computer data across international borders, which violates Russia's and other nations' sovereignty. While the Budapest Convention was written by the Council of Europe, other nations have joined, including Japan and the United States, Breitbart noted. Worse, rights group warned that a new UN cybercrime treaty could essentially blow up the Budapest Agreement, which will make abuses of internet freedom even more numerous and profound. Whatever happens, it seems like countries with the most to gain from limiting internet access to their citizens are the most supportive of this new measure. Gee, can't imagine why. It's getting worse and worse, people. I don't know. I don't know how long, really. We're getting more and more censored. I don't know. I don't know where it's going, because it's pretty hard to put the genie back in the bottle once it's escaped. And we've already lost those freedoms. So, things never get more, permissive. They always get more restrictive. It's like terrorism was an excuse to limit our freedoms, because people are very willing to allow their freedoms to be trampled on under the guise of staying safe and being safe. Yes, keep us safe. Yes, okay, search our shoes, make us take our shoes off at the airport, make us pour out liquids and whatever. It's like, oh, just keep us safe, keep us safe. Well, now, yes, I agree. We need to be safe, absolutely, because yes, there are real terrorists, some of them created, but whatever. And yeah, but now that our internet freedom, our freedom of expression, our rights to free speech are being trampled upon, and they are, I find it hard to think that down the road it's going to ease up, because I don't know, that's not generally the way it goes. I hope, I'm not saying that I don't hope that I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. It really is hard to put the genie back in the bottle. So let's go on. We've got one more thing to cover here, and gosh darn it, we're gonna. So let's look at this. Boy, it just seems to get worse and worse with Joe Biden. And to me, anybody that is even remotely thinking of him as presidential material is not dealing with a full deck. They're either not dealing with a full deck, or they don't have all the information. It's one or the other. So Joe Biden repeatedly lied about marching in the civil rights movement. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes. Did he? No, he didn't. The New York Times article, Biden's first run for president was a calamity, some missteps still resonate, goes into how Joe Biden has always embellished. Yeah, I don't call that embellishment. I call it lying. Yeah, lying. That's what I call it. He's repeatedly lied about key things that never happened. He was caught plagiarizing speeches back in the mid-'80s and has continued telling outright lies about his accomplishments to this day. The New York Times reported in June of this year, in 1988, Joe Biden was prone to embellishment. Hints of that linger today, but unlike then, his message to voters is clear. He's a stabilizing statesman in a tumultuous time. Right. One early example, even though his advisors reminded him he hadn't actually marched in the civil rights movement, he continued telling the story. Of course he did, just like Pocahontas. They like to lie. I guess they can't win on their own merits, can they? This is a quote by Joe Biden. When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program, Mr. Biden thundered, testing his presidential message in February 1987 before a New Hampshire audience. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes, and we changed attitudes. When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. Okay, we just read that. More than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with his formulation. He hadn't actually marched during the civil rights movement. And more than once, Mr. Biden assured them he understood and kept telling the story anyway. So earlier this year, Biden spoke glowingly about a great friend and notorious segregationist Fritz Hollings. Former Vice President Joe Biden made an appearance in South Carolina and pandered to the crowd by mentioning his great friend Fritz Hollings. Or Hollings, probably. Biden was criticized earlier this year by Kamala Harris for working in the Senate with his great friend Fritz Hollings, who was a notorious segregationist. Transcript of Biden's remarks. I want to say, it's good to be back in Spartanburg. I want to thank you, Tyrus, for the introduction. And the fact of the matter is that I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. And folks, I spent an awful lot of time in South Carolina, and because of my good friend, and he was my great friend and helped me a great deal through some very difficult times, Fritz Hollings, I miss him. At a town hall in Spartanburg, South Carolina on 8/28/19, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden praised former reformed segregationist Senator Fritz Hollings as a great friend. Remember Biden's debate response to Harris' claims of racism from Biden? Joe Biden ends his time after getting reamed by Kamala Harris over race, shows little fight. My time's up. I'm sorry. Every other candidate continued fighting when their time expired, except Biden. He just bowed out. Looks very weak. Joe Biden, Biden just failed. And another doozy. In 2008, Biden tried to make a historical comparison between political leadership during the trying economic times of today and yesterday. When the stock market crashed, Franklin D. Roosevelt got on the television and didn't just talk about the princes of greed. There are several things wrong with that statement. First, the stock market crashed in 1929. FDR wasn't the president. Oh my gosh. Herbert Hoover was. He served as president from 1929 until 1933, when Roosevelt, who went on to be elected to the top office 4 times, was inaugurated to his first term. Second, if FDR had been president in 1929 and wanted to make a public statement on the state of the economy, it likely wouldn't have aired on television because no one had a television yet. Duh. The TV was introduced to the public in the 1939 World's Fair in New York, almost 10 years after the crash. Wow. More current tales from Biden are too many. He's continuously told lie after lie on the campaign trail, but the media hasn't played a hardball with him yet. A story about a trip to Afghanistan is the latest doozy from Biden. The press covered for Biden, saying he was just embellishing. So there you go. How do you like that? Joe Biden for president. Not. Anyway, that is it for tonight. But now, like I said at the beginning, I am not planning on posting tomorrow. It is the holidays, and I'm taking tomorrow night as my holiday because I'm busy tomorrow night and, during the day helping my mother and so forth. So anyway, I will not be posting tomorrow night, although if I have time and if I come home early, I will. Might be late, but I might post if I'm home early. And other than that, I will be posting on New Year's Day. I will be posting on New Year's Day. So there you go. Now, if Q posts tomorrow, I will try my very best to get a video out, at least to cover that. So there you go. That's it for tonight. I think you guys are awesome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I really do. You guys are so good to me. So thank you, and you have a great night. Please be safe tomorrow night. If you are going out, if you are a drinker and you are going out, make sure that you have somebody to drive you home that is not a drinker, because every single day or every single year on New Year's Eve, so many people are killed by drunk driving. Please be careful. If you need to take a cab, it is much cheaper than wrecking your car or ending up in the hospital with broken bones or killing somebody else. It's much cheaper than that. So please take a cab home if you are drinking tomorrow night, and stay safe, because we know in this day and age, everything, we don't know anymore. Wherever there's large crowds of people, something could or may happen. So please stay alert, see something, say something, and please, I beg of you, if you are drinking tomorrow night, please take a cab. All right, you guys have a great night's sleep, and I will see you, if not tomorrow, then definitely on New Year's Day. And so I could probably say, see you next year. Yeah, and I'll be here, so I hope you will be too. Good night, guys.